Emotionally immature people do not simply ignore responses that they don't like. They actually lack the internal capacity to absorb and integrate the information. When faced with rejection, limits, or feedback that is outside of their expectations, it's not a problem with hearing or comprehension that is the issue, but a lack of integration. Accepting an unwanted reality requires a stable sense of self and tolerating discomfort. Without those, the mind shifts into protection mode. A no is not a simple neutral boundary, but a threat to identity, worth, or control. Emotionally underdeveloped people reshape the meaning of what was said instead of accepting the new information. The main driver behind this is a fragile sense of self. Emotionally immature individuals require external validation or internal narratives that focus on them being in control, desirable, or competent. When reality contradicts those things, such as rejection or being told no, it creates an internal discomfort that they can't properly handle. They protect their sense of self by reframing the information instead of accepting. This might look like thinking that the other person is confused, they will eventually change their mind, or they did not mean what they said. There is also a low tolerance for uncomfortable emotions. Healthy emotional development involves learning to sit with disappointment, conflict, grief, loss, all of the uncomfortable emotions without immediately escaping them. Emotionally immature individuals cannot tolerate uncomfortable and unpleasant emotions, so they bypass processing them altogether. Instead, they maintain a version of reality that feels less threatening. In other words, they live in a delusion. Emotional immaturity is also characterized by a lack of self reflection. Integration requires the ability to step back, examine your own behavior, and connect the dots. See the actions and the consequences. Repeated experiences, such as being told no a bunch of times, don't accumulate into learning. Each event is an isolated incident and explained away. However, it preserves the person's existing belief system. This is often paired with blame, where responsibility is placed on others rather than looking at the internal components and their part in a situation. It is easier to conclude that others are mistaken than to reevaluate themselves. A distinction between emotional maturity and immaturity is how a person responds to unwanted reality. A mature person acknowledges discomfort while still integrating the information. This is not what I wanted. It's not what I expected, but I'll deal with it. An immature person reshapes or rejects reality to avoid discomfort. This can't be true. I would have to change how I think or how I do things. And they literally ignore stuff until they cannot anymore. The most effective way to navigate these dynamics is not through precise communication, but through consistent boundaries. When integration is unlikely, structure and consequences become the only ways of maintaining stability in the relationship. And there's often not a reason to keep the relationship at all, but there can be social and financial reasons that low contact is beneficial. Have a great day.